Kalimera, good morning to all of you. Unfortunately, my Greek would be torture for you, so I'm going to do this in English. I hope that's okay with you. What I want to talk to you about is two of my favorite subjects. One is innovation, and the other one is access. And I try to give you my personal perspective on it, talk a little bit on how we try to approach this as a company, and maybe give some thoughts on how we as an industry could approach this even more so. Now, if I look at the current situation, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic, and I would say the outlook is slightly improving. The economy seems to come back slightly to growth, hopefully by next year. I think we're moving out of the crisis, and hopefully the large efforts that have been made, the large reforms that have been implemented are starting to bear fruit. Yes, I think we're all still a bit worried about how politically stable the system will be and how crucial that will be. But I would say as a company also, we are kind of cautiously optimistic moving forward. And actually, despite our sales going down, we invested more in 2014 than we did in 2013. And we also invested differently. I mean, Roche, our focus is mostly on R&D, so therefore we do a lot of investment in clinical trials, and we actually have not slowed down. The same for bringing innovation to Greece. I'm going to show you a little bit more about this in the next slide. Something what we do more than we have used to do, we are trying to work more with local partners, looking for co-promotion of some of our more mature medicines. I think this can create an excellent link between a multinational company and a local company. But especially during the crisis, we started to invest also more to support the more vulnerable parts of the society as well as the next generation. And I'm going to show you a little bit what we did so far. Just recently, we announced that we would support the uninsured patients with 2 million worth of drugs. I think a very good initiative in midst of the crisis. Now, let me give you some flavor on what we actually invest in and why it's so keen for us to really make this work. I mean, clinical trial, we're probably one of the biggest clinical trial investors in Greece. This year, we have about 30 trials, including 170 sites, and we treat more than 1,000 patients. Now, we would like to invest even more so, but unfortunately, despite our willingness to invest more, and despite of the rules and the regulations being in place, as we all know, unfortunately, they're not implemented as we would like them to. I'm talking about ethical committees, for example. So there's still a lot of work needed. I think where Greece has really potential to attract more investments. I think bringing innovation to Greece is crucially important because what does it mean at the end? At the end, it means better outcome for patients. And I hope we won't see this kind of delays anymore that we've seen in the past. But we took a very conscious approach, despite the crisis actually, to continue to invest. I talked about the uninsured patients, which I think is a huge problem. You know, we have about 2 million of them. Nobody knows exactly. And we took a big effort actually in providing our medicines free of charge for uninsured patients. Another thing as well that's very keen to our heart is development of talent and development of the next generation. So what we put in place a management trainee program, which is a paid position for 10 of the brightest talents that we have in Greece. We're going to launch the second edition this year, and the talent we've seen coming out of the universities is just amazing. So I would challenge you to do some of the same. Now, I really see this as if I look at the industry and what society can bring or the public system, I really see a lot of room for partnerships. The society has clear needs. We need to improve healthcare for citizens. I think we need to strengthen and improve the healthcare systems, as we heard this morning. As a pharmaceutical industry, we have a lot to offer, not just that we invest in innovation, bring medicines to patients. I think we are a large employer. We pay over-average salaries. We do a lot beyond just investing in R&D in terms of C&R. So I think there's a lot of mutual benefit between the two that we need to realize and that we need to work on this together, really to find common solutions. And it's not just, we generate the costs and the government pay for it. I also want to talk a little bit, sometimes there seems to be a misunderstanding what local companies and multinational companies do. And there are people that try to put a wedge between these two. I can tell you in my organization, I'm the only non-Greek, right? So yes, we are part of a multinational company, but I'm the only non-Greek. And we pay very high salaries for 175 Greek employees. So I think we should look at this much more jointly. Now, from my point of view, we all know we live in a competitive world, and companies invest based on where they have favorable investment climates. So what do we need to do? Which issues do we need to address to make really Greece more attractive for pharmaceutical investments? Access to innovation and budgets. We had a lot of talk on budgets already. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, how we could look at this. I think payment of outstanding debts is a really key issue. You know, it's the lifeblood of our investments. If we don't get paid, we cannot invest. So I would say it has improved slightly, but it's still not where it should be. I think the clawback, I understand the instrument, but the way it's done is clearly unfair for the pharmaceutical industry, as the way it's calculated, you know, doesn't reflect our true share. The respect for intellectual rights is key. You know, it scares the hell out of us if our patents are not respected. And I think this is something Greek cannot allow. I don't think we want to become the India of Europe and not respect even European patent law. So that's an absolute no-go, and we have to be very clear about this. And just, we need to slow down a bit the pace of the change. You know, if I let my team look how many ministerial decisions and facts we had over the last 18 months, and the number is like 60 or 70. It depends on how you call them. So I think this is crazy. I mean, how can we run a company or an industry in this kind of environment? And some of them, as you well know, even contradict the prior ones. Right? So we made good progress. I still see potential, but I think we desperately need to address some of these issues. And I think there are solutions to some of these issues. They might not be easy ones, but I think they are. If I look at the budget, you know, one thing is the budget we have. I also think it should increase, at least what we use for pharmaceuticals, because there's a lot of misuse even within the healthcare system. I think we also need to realize that the politicians, that the pharmaceutical industry, in my view, is probably one of the few ones where Greece can be really competitive, because we have good quality, we have a good cost base, we have good capacity, good scientists, but you know, it needs a strategic push from the government really to say, yes, this is one of the industry where we can be strong, and it needs to be supported accordingly with budgets, rather than throwing budgets to industries, you know, that have no future or are just losing money. And I also think, you know, I'm very keen on innovation, because in our company, we're all about innovation. I think we need to make more room for innovation. It still doesn't make sense for me that Greece has some of the lowest prices for patented medicines, but still one of the highest for off-patent medicines and generics. That doesn't make sense, and I think we cannot afford this. Now, why do we do this all, and why I'm so passionate about innovation? Because at the end, what does innovation mean? And there are a lot of cynics about innovation, even in the political system. Innovation means we're improving patients' lives. And I can tell you, just from my angle, our company is very strong in oncology. And if we look at what's coming in oncology pipeline, there's going to be a revolution that we do not have seen in the last 20 years. Fantastic science is coming through, but this will mean nothing if we cannot get it to the Greek patient. Now, as a company, you know, our contribution to healthcare access is not just investing in R&D and bringing new medicines. You know, we look at this much broader. You know, I think we also need to work as an industry to see if there are new models for reimbursement, value-based medicines, price volume agreements. Some of these things are already seen for, you know, in some of the legislations, but it's very unclear how to implement them. But I think we're really willing to work on this and really find new models. And I think a lot of people do not realize what, as an industry, you know, that we contribute in other measures, such as strengthening the infrastructure, providing trainings, you know, teaching the hospital directors, and also just working in general with the public on health awareness. So I think we need to do a better job as an industry, really providing the whole picture, and not just access equal price. Because it's just access equal price, you know, then we're going to lose, because all that's going to be done is cutting of prices. Now, as I said, you know, I think the main purpose that we have in the industry is really bring the innovation to patients and to improve health. But this will not happen without access. And we all know that access is a complex matter, as it involves so many different stakeholders. So I think we really need to work all together with the different stakeholders, really to come up with a framework, because, even reflecting on the discussion we had this morning, right away we went very tactical, very short term, my budget, and then we have different needs, but I think we failed to address properly that we need an overarching framework really to make this sustainable, because otherwise we're just going to be very tactical year on year, and I don't think we will solve the underlying issues. And just speaking for my company, we are there. We are going to be a very responsible partner to make sure that we build an environment where both the patients, the public system, and also the company can flourish. Thank you for your attention.